Have you ever looked around and realized you haven't really talked to anyone all day? Not in a real human way. Maybe you said thank you to the cashier or waved to a neighbor while checking the mail, but no conversation, no connection. Just quiet. It happened to me on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday. I was folding laundry, socks, shirts, the usual, and suddenly it hit me. Left, double quotation mark. Just a hum of the dryer and the sound of my own thoughts, louder than I wanted them to be. Or maybe for you, it was during dinner. Sitting at the table, staring at a plate of food you cooked just for one. Or after missing a call from your son and realizing that was the one call you were hoping would come. Loneliness after 60 doesn't always show up loudly. It creeps in slowly, in the silence, in the empty chairs, in the calendar that suddenly feels a little too blank. But here's the truth. We don't have to stay stuck there. Loneliness might sneak in quietly, but we can choose to speak up, reach out, and reconnect. And that's exactly what today's video is about. I want to share how I slowly found my way back to laughter, to purpose, to people. And maybe, just maybe, it'll spark something in you too. Have you had a moment like that, where the quiet felt too heavy? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear how you first noticed it. Wow. When I was younger, loneliness felt temporary. You'd feel it for a weekend, maybe during a breakup or when friends were busy, but it passed. Life was full of movement back then. You had work, kids, social events, people constantly coming in and out of your days. But after 60, loneliness feels different. It can sneak into your routine so quietly that you don't even notice it at first. One day, you're just enjoying some peace and quiet, and before you know it, quiet has become the only sound in your life. I remember one day in particular, I was standing in my kitchen, watering my houseplants, when I caught myself talking to one of them for 10 full minutes, telling it about my day, asking how it was doing. And then it hit me. It was plastic. No leaves to grow, no water to drink, just me, pouring my thoughts into a fake fern. I laughed out loud, but inside, I felt that sting. When did I start talking to things that don't talk back? The truth is, after a certain age, our circle naturally shrinks. Friends move away, some pass on. The kids are busy raising their own families. And if we're not careful, that peaceful silence can turn into something heavier. Loneliness becomes a routine, a new normal. But it shouldn't be. It doesn't have to be. Have you ever had a moment where the silence just felt too loud? I'd love to hear about it in the comments, because trust me, if you felt that ache, you're not the only one. And this video is just the beginning of finding your way back. You know how some days just feel heavier than others? It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind where the sky is gray, the house is quiet, and there's not a single thing on the calendar. I'd already done the laundry, had lunch, and even organized the spice rack. Twice I sat on the couch, remote in hand, flipping through shows I wasn't really watching. And then it hit me. Left, double quotation mark. Not a smile, a real, can't help it, belly laugh. And that realization, it stopped me in my tracks. Because that's not just about laughter, that's about joy. And somewhere along the way, I'd stopped feeling joy. It didn't happen all at once. Loneliness is sneaky like that. It shows up slowly, In the silence, in the canceled plans, in the way you stop expecting someone to call. But here's the truth. Loneliness doesn't go away on its own. You can't wait for someone to knock on your door or magically fix it for you. It has to be you. You have to notice it, name it, and then take even the smallest step to change it. That quiet Sunday was my wake-up call. It didn't fix everything overnight, but it made me realize if I wanted connection again, I had to move toward it. So let me ask you, what was your wake-up call? Was it a moment like mine? A sudden realization? I'd truly love to know. Share it in the comments. Your story might just be the sign someone else needs to take their first step too. You know, I used to think that reconnecting with life meant doing something big, like traveling the world or starting a new career at 65, but it wasn't like that at all. For me, it all started with a simple word. Yes. One morning, my neighbor popped her head over the fence and said, "Hey, I'm going to the farmer's market. Want to come along?" Now, the old me would have made an excuse, maybe next time. But that day, for no reason at all, I just said, "Sure." And would you believe it? That one little yes led to something amazing. We walked through stalls of fresh tomatoes and peaches, swapped stories over coffee, and next thing I knew, we were taking morning walks together every week. It became a rhythm, not just groceries, but connection. Turns out, I didn't need therapy. I just needed to gossip about overpriced avocados and argue about the best kind of bread. That tiny invitation, that tiny yes, reminded me life is still happening. You just have to step into it, even if it's just a few blocks to the market. It made me realize that connection doesn't always come from big moments. Sometimes it shows up in ordinary mornings and unexpected friendships. So let me ask you, what was something small you said yes to that made a big difference in your life? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear how your small step led to something meaningful. Something meaningful. Support your small steps. Let me tell you about one of the most uncomfortable and most rewarding things I did when I was feeling disconnected. I called an old friend. Now, I'm not talking about someone I hadn't seen in a few months. I mean a friend I hadn't spoken to in over 10 years. We used to be close. Sunday brunches, birthday calls, those long conversations that went from serious to silly in a heartbeat. But then, life happened. She moved, I got busy. One missed call turned into many, and somehow, we just drifted. Her number was still in my phone, but for years, I just stared at it, thinking, what would I even say after all this time? Well, one afternoon, feeling brave, or maybe just bored, I finally tapped call. And yes, the first 30 seconds were awkward. We both fumbled with small talk. I think I asked about her cat, which had probably passed away by now. But then, something beautiful happened. We started laughing. Real, full-belly laughter. We ended up talking for over an hour, reminiscing about ridiculous college stories, burned dinners, and the time we both got stuck in an elevator with a singing toddler. By the end of that call, I felt something I hadn't felt in a while. Remembered, rooted, like I still mattered to someone. Even after all these years, that connection didn't erase all my loneliness, but it cracked something open. It reminded me that some bonds never really disappear. They just need a little spark to come alive again. So, let me ask you this. Is there someone you've been meaning to call? Maybe today's the day. Tell me in the comments. Who's that name in your contacts you keep scrolling past, but haven't had the courage to dial? So here's something I never thought I'd do in my 60s. I signed up for an art class without having the slightest clue what I was doing. It was one of those community center flyers that had been sitting on my fridge for weeks. I was still standing in my room, left double quotation mark for beginners. I figured, why not? Worst case, I'd waste a few hours. Best case, I paint a masterpiece. Spoiler, I did not paint a masterpiece. The first day, I walked in and everyone looked so prepared. Fancy brushes, color wheels, little cups of water lined up like a science experiment. Meanwhile, I couldn't even figure out which side of the paper was supposed to be the front. Everyone else painted flowers. I painted something abstract. Honestly, it looked like my cat sneezed on a napkin. But here's the surprise. I loved it. Not because I was good at it, but because it was fun. It was freeing. And for 2 hours, I wasn't just a woman home alone on a Tuesday. I was an artist, kinda. I was part of something. People smiled. We joked about our terrible trees and blue skies that turned purple. It reminded me that trying something new doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful. You don't need talent. You need curiosity and a willingness to laugh at yourself a little. So now I'm curious, what's a class or hobby you've been secretly interested in but haven't tried yet? Tell me in the comments. You might just inspire someone else to pick up a paintbrush or sign up for that ukulele class. Well, that's exciting, dog. What? There were mornings I just didn't want to move. You know the feeling. The bed is warm, the house is quiet, and there's that little voice in your head that says, what's the point? I'd make my coffee, sit by the window, and scroll through the same news headlines I'd read yesterday. But one day, I made myself put on shoes and go for a walk. Nothing fancy, just around the block. No goal, no Fitbit challenge, just me and the pavement. And you know what? It helped. Not instantly, not like a miracle, but gradually. I started noticing things. The smell of someone baking, the sound of wind in the trees, a squirrel giving me the side eye from a fence post. I now wave at more squirrels than people. But hey, it's a start. Now, then something surprising happened. Strangers started saying hello. One woman walking her dog stopped to chat. Another man on a bike gave me the same nod every morning until we both laughed about it one day. Well, I started dancing. These tiny exchanges, 2 minutes, maybe less, gave me a sense of belonging I didn't even realize I'd been missing. Getting outside became my reset button. Fresh air, a little movement, and the tiniest bit of interaction changed how I felt the rest of the day. And the best part, you don't have to go far. Just opening the door is sometimes the hardest step, but it's the one that counts. So tell me, do you have a daily walk, a small ritual, something that helps you reconnect with yourself or the world around you? I'd love to hear your little reset moment in the comments. Here's something I never thought I'd admit on camera. Some days, the only person I talked to was my dog. Now, to be fair, he's an excellent listener. He never interrupts, always tilts his head at the right moment, and looks deeply concerned when I talk about my taxes. But in all seriousness, just talking out loud again made a difference. They worked on timestamp. When you go long stretches without conversation, something happens. It's like your brain starts to slow down and your world feels smaller. I didn't realize how quiet I had become, not just on the outside, but in my own mind. So I started small, talking to my dog. talking to myself while cooking, narrating my thoughts while folding laundry. I probably sounded a little loopy, but it helped. It got me back in the rhythm of connecting, even if it was one-sided at first. And from there, I pushed myself gently into real conversations. I joined a little Bible study group at the local church. Nothing big, maybe 6 of us, sitting in a circle, talking about life and scripture and what we had for dinner. But it felt good. It felt human. Whether it's chatting with the barista, calling your cousin, or even whispering to your goldfish, talking keeps the mind awake and the heart open. So here's my question to you. Who do you talk to most during the day? And yes, pets totally count. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about your favorite conversational partner. Well, one tack. So, after all those little steps, saying yes to an invitation, calling an old friend, joining a class, walking outside, even talking to my dog, what actually changed? Well, here's the truth. I didn't wake up one morning with a brand new life, but I did wake up with something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. I started to laugh more, not just polite chuckles, but the kind of laugh that makes your stomach ache a little. I felt lighter, like someone had taken a few bricks off my shoulders. And maybe most importantly, I stopped apologizing for needing connection. For the longest time, I felt like wanting to be seen or heard made me needy or dramatic. But now I realize connection isn't weakness. It's medicine. It's one of the few things that heals both quietly and powerfully. You don't need 100 friends or constant social plans. Sometimes all it takes is one meaningful conversation, one shared moment, one person who remembers your name at the grocery store. That's the beauty of opening up again. You give life the chance to surprise you. And I'm so glad I didn't let the silence win. Now it's your turn. What changed for you when you let people back in? Big or small? I'd love to hear it. Drop a comment below and let's keep this conversation going. Because someone else might need your story today. Before we end this video, I just want to leave you with this. If you've been feeling lonely lately, you are not alone. Not now, not in this moment, not while we're here together. Every small step I talked about today, saying yes, picking up the phone, stepping outside, talking to someone or something, they may seem tiny on their own, but each one is like a thread, gently pulling you back toward the world, toward connection. You don't have to fix everything today. You don't need a grand plan, a packed calendar, or perfect words. You just need to reach. One call, one smile, one step towards someone or something that makes you feel alive again. Some days that might look like chatting with a neighbor. Other days, it might just be opening the curtains and letting the sunlight in. And that's okay. Healing from isolation isn't loud or flashy. It's quiet, personal, brave. So, let me ask you this. Have you been feeling a bit lonely lately? What's one small thing you're doing to reconnect with life again? Share it in the comments. Not just for me, but for someone else scrolling through, looking for hope. And your words might be the exact thing they need to read today. And if this video spoke to you, consider sharing it with someone you care about. Let's build something kind together. Take care of yourself. You're not invisible. You're not forgotten. You're still here, and that means there's still so much more life waiting for you.